Hello Marvel fans, it's another Did You Know series. And today let's talk about X-Men's top comic book storylines. But before we continue, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button to remind you of my videos. And now, my X-Men, let's rock. First in number 10, the Schism Event. The 5-part limited series accurately reflects the tensions that arose in the mutant community following House of M. Rational persons suddenly turn irrational and desperate, while the most unexpected characters are obliged to take on duties they never desired. The tension rests at the center of a conflict between Cyclops and Wolverine, forcing other mutants to take sides. Both men have conflicting ideas on how to salvage the mutant race, and readers are on the edge of their seats, struggling to pick a side themselves between their favorite characters. On paper, it's an excuse to pit the central X-Men leaders against each other after years of simmering resentment, but it also serves as a mirror of the changing circumstances ahead of the upcoming status quo transition. This sounds like Cap and Tony Stark, so which side are you Marvel fans? Well, let's just go to number 9, the Brood Saga, Uncanny X-Men number 161 to 167. The X-Men franchise has always been science fiction based, but this plot allowed the franchise to delve deeper for the first time. Without this plot arc, the franchise may not have had the chance to go into the sci-fi insanity witnessed during the Krakoa era. At the very least, the transition and full commitment into that genre would have never felt as natural as it did without the introduction of the Brood alien race. This one I want to see in the animated series X-Men 97, that would be awesome. In number 8, Giant Size X-Men number 11975, the most of these entries are made up of story arcs that cover numerous issues and tie-in comics, but this is the lone one-shot comic on the list, and for good cause. The X-Men franchise has been around for decades, but Giant Size X-Men number 1 has had the most impact on modern plots in both comics and film adaptations. For new fans, this is an excellent introduction to the modern depiction of the X-Men, and for longtime fans, it's the finest method to trace the origins of what modern X-Men look like. The squad combines new members who will become permanent roster fixtures, mainly Nightcrawler, Colossus, and, most notably, Storm, and infuses them with the classic team, providing the best of both worlds for new and returning readers. In number 7, God Loves, Man Kills 1982 by Chris Claremont and Brent Eric Anderson. God Loves, Man Kills is most known for serving as the primary source material for the film X2, X-Men United, but the graphic novel is much more than that. In fact, it's simple to see why Fox was so interested in translating this narrative for the cinema. God Loves, Man Kills is possibly the clearest example of the X-Men's major themes inside their mutant mythos. Similar to the film, the plot revolves around Magneto teaming up with the X-Men to foil William Stryker's plans to turn Professor X's mental talents into a weapon against mutant kind. Stryker's questioning of Nightcrawler's humanity has become one of the most memorable X-Men panels. The panel, like the rest of the story, wonderfully exemplifies the franchise's final message of discovering humanity at the heart of everyone, regardless of power, genes, or skin color. Next in number 6, E is for Extinction by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. E is for Extinction marks the beginning of Grant Morrison's run on the X-Men, which some consider to be the greatest run by a writer for the franchise since Chris Claremont's groundbreaking time with the series. Morrison's run begins with a bang with a quick introduction of Cassandra Nova, Charles Xavier's evil twin. Nova has an immediate effect by calling for the end of mutanthood in her first panels, then attempting to wipe them all with the destruction of Genosha in the next issue, resulting in the genocide of millions. The Genosha Holocaust was immediately incorporated into X-Men 97, demonstrating how deeply these events shocked readers if Disney chose to precisely replicate them. From this tale alone, it's clear why Morrison is regarded as one of the best writers for the franchise. I think I want to have a copy of this book. Okay, let's go to number 5. X of Swords 2020 by Jonathan Hickman and Teenie Howard. House of X and Powers of X took the X-Men on a completely new path. Both series established the tone for the Krakoa era, and X of Swords, being the first event to follow Krakoa's debut arc, continued the trend by fulfilling the promises of intrigue initially introduced in House of Powers. If House of Powers of X paved the way for a new future for the X-Men, X of Swords was the first threat to put that future at risk. An event of this magnitude remains all the more fulfilling to readers who paid attention to every little moving piece in this crossover and kept their eyes glued to each exciting panel. Now we are down to number 4, House of Powers of X 2019 by Jonathan Hickman and familiarize. Few tales, even those on this list, are as impactful as House Powers of X. Since its inception, the X-Men franchise has maintained a similar status quo and, in many cases, the same setting, with the mutant squad housed in a school or mansion. The Krakoa era was able to modify everything, offering the central mutants something altogether new. A living island with the concept of resurrection on the line roots X-Men even deeper into the sci-fi genre, whilst even offering subtle, unsettling connotations to the X-Men's new surroundings rooted in horror. The Krakoa era lasted 5 years and ended only recently, yet it would not have been as successful if this double feature series had not quickly piqued fans' interest. Now that the era is gone, House of Powers of X feels like a complete work of art, yet the ending is just as hard as the beginning. Now we are down in top 3. Fall of the House, Rise of the Powers of X. Several writers and artists led by Gary Duggan. If the House of Powers of X began the Krakoa era with a bang, this two-part arc brought it to an end with an atomic bomb. It started with a loud, frightening bang as Orcus crashed through the Hellfire Gala, killing several mutants in the process. Even worse, Professor Xavier ended up being a major contributor to Krakoa's demise, making him a worse villain than Magneto. The fall of Krakoa is an event that affected the entirety of the Marvel Universe, even compelling Emma Frost to marry Iron Man for an uneasy alliance. It was a fitting way to end 5 years of the Krakoa era, offering heartbreak but also optimism for a bright future ahead for the X-Men. Okay, and number 2, Days of Future Past 1981. By Chris Claremont and John Byrne. In many ways, Days of Future Past set the tone for how Marvel approaches time travel stories, which is significantly different from DC Comics. Most Marvel narratives depict a dismal, uncertain future for their heroes, masking the worst-case situation. Days of Future Past played a significant role in shaping that vision of the future. Even the concept of capturing and killing mutants in vast numbers, which had subsequently become commonplace in many X-Men novels, began here. In the original comic, Kitty Pryde Shadowcat travels back in time to warn the X-Men of an impending danger, not Wolverine as depicted in the movie adaptation. This highlights her significance and distinctive capabilities within the narrative. Days of Future Past's impact on in-universe plots is still felt today, since a prequel comic was produced last year. The symbolism and reception of the original Days of Future Past remain compelling enough for Marvel to return to this planet and everything it has to offer. And the number 1 spot belongs to the Dark Phoenix Saga, 1976 by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. If there was ever a definitive X-Men story, it would be the Dark Phoenix Saga. It is unquestionably definitive for Jean Grey, since it marks a significant turning point in her character's development. Jean Grey's name has become synonymous with the Phoenix entity's inception and concept, and this is especially true now that they have fused. Aside from Zhang's connection to the Phoenix as a cosmic force quickly emerges as one of Marvel's most powerful god-tier powers. The Dark Phoenix Saga would impact the course of the Marvel Universe forever. Even outside of X-Men history, storylines use the Phoenix as a storytelling device. The Dark Phoenix Saga is the X-Men at their best, presenting the ultimate mutant soap opera that continues to captivate readers, authors, and anybody who proclaims themselves an X-Men fan. That completes the list. Marvel fans. Every true X-fan has their favorite comics and storylines from the franchise, but with so many to choose from, it becomes difficult to rank the all-time best. By proxy, newer X-fans may want a starting point for the best stories to peruse through in order to better familiarize themselves with the franchise. This list hopes to do both by ranking the very best storylines and comics that the X-Men franchise has to offer to loyalists of the franchise and beginners looking to dive into the best ones. Days of Future Past, The Dark Phoenix Saga, and Giant Size X-Men #1 are must-reads for any X-Men fan, young or old, as they define the franchise's legacy. This would be the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment your reaction to this list. I'll see you again on my next video, Marvel fans. Bye-bye.